Hey everyone, this is Blake, the Grizzled musician. I saw Spitfire Audio had Albion One on sale this month, and that got me thinking about doing a review for it. I've had it for a little while, and I've got some experience with it, so I thought maybe I could help someone who might be thinking about purchasing it. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so this is a cue that I wrote when I sort of had the idea to do this review. I took about 2 hours or so and kind of threw this together, so it's not really going to win any awards or anything, but I think it will show you how Albion One sounds. So let me just get this on here. I should mention that I am running through the Lexicon Random Hall plugin for reverb as well as Space Designer. So I'm running 2 reverbs on this. So here we go. And I have a compressor, a mix bus compressor, and I've got Ozone 9 for a little bit of mastering. I'll turn those off after we're done listening to this. So here we go. Okay. So that is the little track that I put together just with Albion One, aside from, like I said, the piano, soft piano, and the pipe organ from Spitfire Labs. So one thing about Albion One is it has a very, very distinctive sound. So much to the point that if you go and look up other reviews of Albion One, they're probably going to sound something like this. Doesn't mean that that's the only type of music you can do, but that's generally what it lends itself to. And this really isn't the type of music that I write very much, but some people it is. You know, they're writing trailer cues and stuff like that. It definitely lends itself well to writing things like that. In my experience, writing more melodic things, I have struggled to get Albion One to do that as well as other libraries. For instance, let me talk about the brass here for a second. I think the brass is probably one of the weakest parts of the library. It's not my favorite part of it. I'll just say that. But it does sound nice, especially the high octave legato sounds pretty nice. However, what you'll notice is that because it is an ensemble-based library, there's no way to separate the trumpets or the French horns. All of the notes are going to have both of them. So that limits you a little bit in what you want to do. Say you wanted to have a French horn melody. There's not really a way of doing that. You could swap over to the mids, which is like probably French horn and maybe baritone or something like that. I'm not really sure. Maybe there's some trombone in here. And that's the other thing. You really don't know what instruments are in each of the patches. But if we swap to the mids, not quite as powerful as maybe the high one would be. I mean, you do have trumpets in the brass high. But let's say I compare that to Hollywood Orchestra by East West. You can definitely hear that there's a difference there. And that is one thing about Albion One that I have never been too happy with, is the way that the brass sound. I understand that it's an ensemble library, but I feel like in some cases it does not get big enough for me. And I've seen other people say the same thing. So the brass is, to me, the weakest point. But let's talk about some of the stronger points for it. The strings are pretty good. This is what it sounds like. So they sound nice. They sound pretty good, pretty full. What I do find is I feel like they have sort of a scooped mid EQ curve to where you get a lot of top end and a lot of low end, but in the middle, it's kind of... Oh, I'm running out of voices. Let me increase that. I should mention that I'm using all of the mic positions. So we have close, tree, ambient, and outriggers. So we have a lot of mics loaded up, so we're using a lot of voices here. So if I sit down and I want to sort of sketch something out with strings, Albion One's probably what I'm going to reach for, because it sounds nice. It is easy to play. It's laid out really nicely across the keyboard. You'll find with a lot of the Albion One stuff that it's kind of designed with an 88 key keyboard in mind. You can get by with a smaller one, but for the strings especially, being able to go, down here to the low strings and then also being able to go up here does make it easier than having to swap around with octaves and things like that. So it's orchestrated really nice across the keyboard. It has a nice sound. Other libraries, if you compared their strings to Albion One, you could find some that I would say sound better, but these do sound nice, and I do like them. Some of the different articulations, we've got spiccato. We've got some pizzicato. longs you've heard. We've got consordino longs. And etc. I'm not really going to go through too many of the articulations because there are plenty of videos out there. Spitfire has a good walkthrough by Paul Thompson on all of the, kind of shows off the articulations and all that stuff. So I won't rehash that here. This is more about my thoughts about the library. So the strings are pretty good. One of my favorite things about this library are the woodwinds, though. The woodwinds are excellent. In my opinion, of course. I just really like the way that sounds. The arranged longs are, the long will be like oboe and flute would be up here on the same note. Clarinet and oboe kind of down here on the same note. The ranges will, crossfade, but they'll be on the same note. The arranged will actually put flutes on a different note than the clarinets, kind of like the octaves in the brass. So you got clarinets an octave below on this one. I really like the woodwinds in Albion One. There's just something about them that I really do like. I've used them probably more than I've used just about anything else in the library. The percussion in Albion One, it's like super specific. It's really sort of meant for that film scorey trailer type sound. So if that's what you're going for, it's got that. If you're wanting snare drum, bass drum, timpani, things like that, you're not really going to find it here. So that can be a bit of a letdown is if you're looking for stuff like that. So I'll play this right here. So we've got stuff like that. We have, these are mostly the same. So we've got like low hits here. These, I guess, are mid. Label as mid hits. Those are high hits. We have high sticks. And then we've got like metals like anvil and stuff like that. So that's the type of stuff that's in the percussion section. There are different types of percussion in here. Got toms. I think we've all heard something that sounds like that before. Super low sub hit. And even in the legacy patches, there's some stuff in here as well. So there's a good amount of percussion stuff in here, but it's not really your traditional percussion that you might expect when talking about cinematic like composition. This is very specifically for film trailer type stuff. Let's talk about the loops real quick. Personally, I've found the loops harder to use. It doesn't fit in with the type of music I generally write. I've heard it used pretty effectively. I did use it in this track. So let me see if I can find where I did that. Just to give you an idea. So I only had that kind of come in at certain points because I found that the thing I find with a lot of the loops, but I probably need to go through here and find more of them just to see if I can find some I like, is they can be kind of hard. I've found it hard to fit them into a mix sometimes. Doesn't mean that they're not usable. Plenty of people use them. For me, it's been a little bit difficult to find where to put them. But that's just down, I think, to the type of music that I generally write. Doesn't usually use these kind of glitchy sounding things very much. And finally, I want to talk about the synth side of things that will be in this Stevenson Steve Band folder. The synth stuff in here is actually pretty nice. I've got one down here, and I don't know that I see too many people talk about it too often, the synth stuff. The synth engine, there's a good video from Spitfire on kind of how this synth engine works. I've never really played around with it very much, but it does have some nice presets in it. And you can go through and mess around with all of these just like a synth library. So it's nice. It's done pretty well. So this is the track or the project for my track Hoist the Sails. Specifically, I want to talk about where I was able to use Albion One. All of the woodwinds, aside from the solo oboe, were from Albion One. The solo oboe was actually from BBC from Spitfire as well. But let me show you where I was able to use the woodwinds in this track. So all of the woodwinds there at the beginning, I'll zoom in, were Albion One. And that was because I knew that I wanted woodwinds, but I didn't really know at the time or even necessarily feel like putting them all out on separate tracks and orchestrating them. So I instead opted to go and pull up Albion One. And it worked really nicely. I really like how they sound. Here, I'll solo it out so you can hear it. And for that little run there, all I did was I just played the run. And so all of that's Albion One. And sort of after I kind of finished this track, I just realized how much I love the woodwinds that are in this library. So the woodwinds are a big win for me from Albion One, as well as, like I said with the strings, I used the strings as a layer over top of the actual split strings. So I have Hollywood strings doing things like the violins. So that's just with Hollywood strings. However, I left in the top violin portion of that in Albion One as well, and this is what it sounds like with that added. Without, with Albion One. Without, with. that's just Albion One with Hollywood strings. So you can kind of see that either of them apart don't sound as good as they do together. And so that's a way that a lot of people I've seen have used Albion One, is they layer them with other libraries. I didn't really use Albion One anywhere else in this track because I had the brass and percussion covered, and it wasn't really a hybrid type song with synths and stuff like that. So there isn't a lot of synthesizer stuff in here anyway. So there was really no need for me to use anything else from Albion One, but I used the strings and I used the woodwinds, and they really, I think, really helped make the song. So really, kind of in conclusion, my review of Albion One would be, it's an excellent library to have. I don't know that I could use it as my only library, though. I feel like it would be too limiting. I'm really glad that I have it, but I've seen it said that some recommend Albion One as kind of the first library someone buys, and I don't think I would. I would probably recommend going with something that's not ensemble based, something that's a little more flexible, so you can kind of open up and expand your horizon on the type of music you want to write. Albion really kind of boxes you in. So if that's the type of music you want to write, Albion One is great for it. But if you want to try to write some more out of the film scorey sounding genre, Albion's gonna probably be a little bit difficult with that. But overall, it's a nice library. I like it. I'm glad to have it. Definitely wait for a sale to buy it if you're interested. It goes on sale pretty regularly, so there's no need to buy it at full price. It will go on sale again. If you don't buy it during this sale, they'll have probably a summer sale or a Black Friday sale or something like that, that you'll be able to pick it and any of their other libraries up. But I think that's going to do it for me. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope I helped in some way. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you liked the video, like it. If you didn't, dislike it. If you like content like this and want to see more of it, click the subscribe button. And I'll see all of you in the next one. Bye for now.